Hello, everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile for Women. And this initiative is to bring women together on a common platform to have the relevant conversations and support each other, learn from each other, share with each other, and form the best community that we can and we are today. And as part of this initiative, we have a project, an initiative under this called Lean and Agile, or LEA 100, where we are bringing in to celebrate the journeys and stories of 100 phenomenal women from across the globe. And 100 among many, by no means these are the only 100, but these are the 100 that we got to know and understand. And we would like to celebrate their journeys for the phenomenal work they've been doing and contributions to the society. And as part of this LEA 100 initiative, today I'm really thrilled to introduce you to someone who is from the most beautiful, in fact, it's the most sparsely populated country in the European Union, I learned. It has 16 inhabitants per square kilometer. And according to the recent UN report, and this was a fascinating fact, it's apparently the happiest country in the world. And that just warmed my heart. Yes, she's from the beautiful Finland in Europe, and she is a pioneer, she's a practitioner, she's a researcher above all in scaling agile methods. She belongs to a handful of pioneers on large-scale agile implementations in Finland, in fact, in all the Nordic regions. And she has hands-on experience in leading and developing agile methods in large global products and service development organizations. And she coaches enterprises in Finland in large-scale agile development, and she has over 2 decades, in fact, more than 2 decades experience. And the phenomenal aspect is in 2013, she published her PhD thesis in agile methods in large-scale software development organizations, applicability and model for adoption. The first academic report of this sort ever on scaled agile methods came out in 2013 through her. And this took about a decade of her hard work. And meanwhile, she also founded Nithor Delta, the large-scale agile training and coaching consultancy, and she brought scaled agile methodologies for the first time to the Nordics. She's none other than Maarit Lanti, and I practiced saying that because there is an emphasis on the first syllable, apparently. And currently, Maarit is coaching large-scale companies in deploying Agile. She's the co-author of Lean and Agile Financial Planning and finalizing her new definitive book on Agile Portfolio Management. She has over 18 research papers on Agile implementations, and the first one was written way back in 2005. And it's my absolute pleasure to invite and have Maarit Lanti to LEA 100. Welcome, Maarit, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Padmina. It's my pleasure to be here in this initiative, and I really look up on all the good work that you are doing here, and all the respect for all the women who have been working here before me, and joining this initiative with me to make the work that we are doing kind of very public.
Thank you so much, Maarit. Those were very kind words. And women like you make this initiative possible. So, definitely have huge respect for that. So, you have so much that you have done. So obviously I'll have, a lot of questions, and we would like to learn more about, your background and what you've done in the Finland and in the Nordic region there. So my first thought here is based on, your initial experience in the software program management, right? In 2006, I learned that you started to lead one of the largest agile transformation projects of that time, at least in that area. And, you've piloted the scaled agile framework at Nokia. And this was even without having any definitive framework in place. I mean, today we have several frameworks defined and accessible. But back then you didn't have anything to leverage. Can you share your experience on what actually made you catapult into that space, and how did you make that happen? That was a huge scale transformation.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. So I got interested in Agile earlier, actually in 2000, year 2000. I invited Dr. Alistair Coburn to talk to my own project team. So I was leading a Vitamin CDMA base station software program at that time. And Alistair Coburn kind of came and he gave a presentation to my program team. So because of him, I managed to change my own program from waterfall into incremental mode, not yet agile, but incremental mode. And that led into business success. So I decided that, okay, I want to understand what happened here and study this. In year 2001, Alistair Coburn then invited those gurus in US to ski to Utah with him, and out came Agile Manifesto. So I had luxury to invite him to Finland a year before Agile Manifesto was born. And so I started to study this. I first called it as a turbulent project management. But later on, I found out that, okay, actually what I try to understand here is large-scale agile. And I started to write the first research paper in 2004, which is published in 2005. And as I showed it to a colleague, he said to me that, oh, you need to actually have so huge topic. You need to actually publish a dissertation on this. And so I started to kind of just write papers on after office hours and on weekends. And it took me 10 years to really to kind of complete this research. So it was really hard to get those papers published, because I got a lot of feedback from peer reviewers that what you're trying to do here doesn't make any sense, because I was kind of trying to communicate the philosophy behind a large-scale agile. But then I started to lead Nokia make a decision to adopt agile methods at the smartphone development in 2006. So that came from Dr. Jan Bosch, who had worked for Philips, and kind of he kind of was selling this idea to the top management. And so I contacted Jan and I said that, hey, I've been studying this and how it can be done in large scale, and I would want to be part of this. So he nominated me to lead this change initiative. So at that time, we got the permission from the top management to try and different things and to scale up agile development. And I took the very bold move that I sent an email to top management that, hey, I know you want to adopt Scrum in team level, but I don't think this is enough. We need to kind of go full organization in the agile. And they kind of said to me that, yes, we know we don't have a recipe that is kind of ready, but we can try. And we had quite many pitfalls on the way. But we persisted on trying, and because of that, there was this 808 megapixel, 64 megapixel camera launched later on. Actually, it was launched after the Symbian operating system and Symbian phones production line was cancelled. It was launched after that, and it was based. Of course, on technical excellence, but also on the capabilities that agile development gave to us. Also, what we managed to do on mobile phone side was we were able to launch the Agile product line that was sold in millions in countries like China and India. Probably you have used these touch low-end phones in India.
Yes.
So. It was considered as mission impossible before we started this transformation, and so people got really excited. And my research, I changed my research attitude. So I started to do kind of quantitative research on kind of. I asked people who, first we took some agile methods into use, and then we asked people that, what do you feel about this?
Yeah.
And I didn't got an allowance to publish any kind of performance figures, but I kind of published the figures like if people are really liking this way of working, and what really works, and how do we see this change, and and what is large-scale agile in general. So in my dissertation, I actually had to define what is large-scale agile because the whole concept was non-existent. And as well, I kind of also introduced this model, how you can take it into use. So I think it's very hard because it's not just like you can say that you do agile, but it also needs investments. And in order to succeed in a large-scale organization, you actually have to have an alignment of action, which means you have to have a goal, and then you have to be kind of what you're kind of pursuing with this agility. So it's a kind of tied into your business and strategy goals, and then you need to have a unification of means. How do you get there? So it's kind of a double loop learning what you get there. And then you need to kind of fund these enablers, which are kind of the backlog tools, which are the training, which are also kind of your DevOps tools or CI tools or test automation tools. And there is so much things under Agile umbrella. And if you try to do everything at the same time, it's going to be very hard. So what we learned to do is this kind of focused initiatives, like half-a-year initiatives, have a focus on fixing something, like fixing CI, fixing test automation, fixing our backlogs, and then kind of show the progress as we were moving forward with this actual initiative, and show how much faster we were going and what kind of benefit that was bringing into the business.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic because as you were talking, I could only imagine the scale of that effort. It's huge, especially building that consistency across the teams and across the programs.
Yeah.
And that leads to my. Sorry, you were saying something.
Well, I was saying that in 2008 I did this first survey, and over 1,000 people replied, and I still haven't come across any survey done within a company that has so many replies. So I'm really kind of humble on all the people who were actually supporting and who were with me. And also kind of the phone business didn't end well with Nokia, but what happened was that these people who actually transformed and learned this new way of working, they have been much better off now when they have started new startups, or when they have gone into different companies, they have started agile transformations over there. So that's what excites me. Like people, they are really capable of learning new skills. And I think what we are doing here is finding new ways of managing the work itself.
Yes.
And I read somewhere that the traditional way of managing work was born in kind of via the industrialization in 20 years time frame. And I think what we see here with this agile movement itself is we are learning better ways on managing software development, managing these networks of people, and discovering new rules. And I believe it's happening within 10 years time frame that we are totally changing the game here.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. That's simply
Absolutely.
fascinating.
Absolutely. And, you were mentioning that you sent an email to your top management, right? About
Yes.
the new way of working, bringing in Agile into the organization.
Yes.
Now, that leads to my next question then, Maarit, where many women have these internal barriers when they want to take that huge step. It could be a giant leap, or it could be just a small step, right? Towards transformation, towards changing the way the company works, or even the way they kind of work, or change in their own career, their own perspective. There's always that self barrier that weighs heavy on us as women due to several reasons. How did you, first of all, did you have those barriers in your mind, or a self dialogue of self doubt? And if you did, how did you overcome and tell yourself that I'm going to go ahead and do this?
I think that's a very, very good question. And I think kind of entrepreneurship and basically life, it needs a lot of courage. Mm-hmm. And kind of, I have a very strong support network. My husband has been very supportive for me. And so I was thinking that, okay, the challenges that we faced in business, I think those were so huge. And if no one is taking action, everybody is just hiding their head in a bush.
Yeah.
We are going to be doomed. And I thought that, okay, I have to take the initiative. I have to take the action, because if the worst happens and I get sacked, there is always kind of my husband and that I can rely on. And financially, I thought that it's not going to be a kind of a catastrophe. And that was kind of helping me to be bold. And to be honest, many times I was thinking that now I'm saying so drastic things that am I even allowed to say these things, or what will be the consequences? But I kind of feel also that as a woman, there has been maybe a little bit more tolerance to what I've been saying, but also kind of sometimes people, they try to make it more little, like what you are saying, just because you are women. So sometimes you just have to say it louder until you are heard, and find another way to I don't know. I'm very persistent, and but where to get this confidence that okay, what you are actually preaching is the right thing to preach, because I think we all have that self-criticism, and I think the self-criticism itself is a good thing, but I remember one thing when I was setting up a team. A fellow colleague asked me that, Maarit, how did you find so good people into your team? And then I explained kind of like how I did go through all the CVs and how I did go through the interviews, and how I kind of went 100 CVs to get 10 interviews to hire one person. And he said, wow, it's such a laborious thing. I won't do it. And that's been the thing for me as well. So my supervisor, Professor Pekka Abrahamsson, he said to me when I was making my PhD that, Maarit, you could be a PhD with less effort. Why did you choose such a such a huge topic? And I say that, well, because it's important. And kind of that's what been my driving thing. So if you really believe what you are doing, and if you do the heavy lifting, you do the reading, and I've been there. Like I learned to code at the high school using BASIC and VIC 20, and then I learned in university. I learned Pascal, and I learned C language, and I was coding in C. So I was actually doing the software development work myself before I was promoted to be a project manager, to be a program manager. I lived kind of the era of the rising software industry and the complexity of the projects. So my first project was done just by 3 persons. We were doing this digital multiplexer. So I've done the heavy lifting basically, and and at some point you realize that the people around you, they may have a different background. They may have not been there for 20 years or more. And so it's your duty to speak up. It's your duty, because you have only this one chance, your one life. And you can either make the world better, or you can just be a coward. And that's your choice. It's kind of the same thing as they said that everybody has this black and white dog in their heart, and one of these speaks nice things and the other one speaks ugly things. It's up to you whom you listen. So it's up to you whether you make the difference or not. But if you want to make a change, you really have to do the heavy lifting. My motivation was that I saw these software programs that were kind of awful. They were awful for the people who were working on those. And my dream has been to bring in ways of working that are good for the people who work in those programs, and that are making profitable business for the companies. And I believe that's possible. It's my dream, and in a way that's keeping me busy.
No, I mean, that's very powerful what you just said, to have the courage to listen to the black or white
Yeah.
In yourself and speak up, because that's for your own good. So thank you so much. I think that is a very powerful message, very concise, but it's the need of the hour. So thank you for sharing that. There's one research paper that you published. I believe it's in 2007 or 2008 that really caught my attention, and the title is Agile and Well-being.
Yes.
And that's the space that not much research has been done. And one of the aspects that was mentioned in that research paper, as I can remember, was around the teams who are self-empowered feel less stress,
Yes.
right? And then can you elaborate on that, please? And
I would
why
love
that
to.
is?
Yeah, I actually I published that paper after I left Nokia,
Okay.
and I published it on my own expense because I felt the subject was so important.
Yeah.
So it was started by a colleague of mine, Vasco Duarte, who is kind of behind the no metrics thing. He found out this article which said that happy cows produce more milk.
Ah.
That was a research done. I think it was in UK, if I remember correctly, that they kind of studied how the cows were taken care of, and they found out that if they have a good care, then they produce more milk. And we were discussing that in relation with software developers, like how we work long hours, and how the management thinks that is going to produce better results, and how little research. So we actually looked and we found no research at all done on this. And then I kind of recalled, and we discussed this, that in Agile community we discussed kind of like team empowerment and such things, and so I just thought that okay, let's make another survey.
Yeah.
And later on I found out that okay, not in software industry, but kind of in psychology, there is actually a lot of studies. So I believe that maybe the founders of Scrum and some Agile methods, they have known these psychological studies that I wasn't aware of. But what resulted was that then the Nokia HR got really interested on this, and they actually funded a thesis worker who studied a Scrum team kind of forming. So they used traditional methods, and then they kind of started with Scrum, and the results were so positive that kind of she got as a reply that oh, you can't publish this kind of thesis, you have to find some critic also. And then the Finnish Occupational Health Center got interested, so they started a longitudinal survey of 5 years, where they took actually saliva tests and blood pressure tests on employees working for different companies for 5 years' time. And one of the things that one of the researchers confessed to me, I'm not sure if they published this later on, but she said that when one of the companies, they had to go through some layoffs, and they laid off one of the teams that was under their study. They said that because they were working as a development team together and as an agile team, they actually started to share some of the topics relating to layoffs, and they were astonished by the results that how they survived much better than, because usually kind of you stop all the stress tests and other things if there is such a drastic change like layoffs. But they say that this group actually survived much better than they would have ever dreamed of. Mm-hmm. So it's really impacting. And then Pekka Abramson, my professor, he also published this paper that happy developers or happy people are more creative or something like this. Yeah. So he made a study with his students, like how the creative problem solving goes if you are happier, in a way that it has also impact there. So I think this is an area where we could study more. Yeah. And sometimes people, and what I found out is that sometimes the stress is work related. Yeah. When the method at which you work is really impacting your experience and stress. Sometimes people have stress that is coming from other places, like their relationship or their family or something,
Right.
some other things. So of course that's then the way you work is not impacting there. But if we can impact our workplaces, we can actually make them better by helping the teams to become empowered, which means that they have a say on how much work they are going to work on. So how much work they are going to get on their plate.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Just to conclude there. So I think what we try to do with large scale agile is quite often kind of the business environment is known by the business executives or the leadership only, and they communicate the targets for the developers, and they don't know how hard it is for developers to meet these targets, and the developers don't know where these goals or targets come from. So if you can create a dialogue and a kind of a communication system where these two groups can talk with each other, understand with each other, and kind of communicate the goals so that the teams can say how we are going to reach those goals. And then we can have a dialogue. What is the business impact? We have a huge possibility to change how our organizations are working.
Absolutely.
And how healthy our companies and organizations are. And that will create a much better society.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And you worked in huge organizations, Maarit, and you worked with several teams and programs and whatnot. Can you share the impact of having diverse teams? And I want you to focus on gender diversity with that lens as you answer this. What would that impact be? And why, if at all you believe, why does it lead to more productivity and more holistic teams, if you will, having the gender balance?
Yeah, I believe kind of having a gender balance is leading actually on better performance. And I believe that if you take different views into account when you form the different opinions, you will actually have much informed decisions that are made. And I believe that's the richness of different viewpoints, basically, that is contributing there. So when I started with Nitor, we actually, I founded Nitor Delta, which is part of Nitor. So there is different companies that are kind of belonging in the Nitor group. And Nitor Delta is one of those. It is having now 18. We are having now 18 coaches in two different countries, so in Sweden and in Finland. And when I founded that, I was the first woman in Nitor, and I really experienced it like I was feeling like a different being, because everybody else was doing coding and I was the coach, and I was a different gender. So lots of questions like what is she, a different animal? But I think I think it's well, one of my one of the people with whom I studied at the Helsinki University of Technology, electrical engineering, she confessed to me that when she was working in a project, people came to her and they told her the problems. And I think that's the one aspect that you get when you have a female working in a business, because people for some reason people come for us our male colleagues. They confess us things that they don't tell their male friends or male colleagues, and just kind of these kind of things make the workplace to gel better, basically.
Yeah, to come together better. And
yes, because
stronger teams
come to understand each other, understand the problems that they are facing, and you sometimes
and also I think it just provides for different perspectives, right?
Yeah, it's the different perspectives, but also kind of being less threatening in a way, because there is some competition.
Yeah,
the male colleagues, and there is some toughness and kind of the very ranked hierarchy, and somehow as women we are breaking that, and that's good.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for sharing that because that's just right on. Now, having said that, when you go into companies like Nithor or any organization, what are some of the superpowers that you wear on your sleeve as you go into these organizations?
I'm really persistent.
Okay.
So I don't give up easily. So I try to reason things, and then if I get kind of feedback that tries to turn me down, I I go back and I do more homework. So I
Mhm.
take my books and I read more, and I'm armed with the information. And then you don't want to start an argument with me, basically.
I'll note that.
Yeah, not at least on agile, and not at least on agile at what
Not
scale.
in the agile argument. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, good for everybody to know that because I think it's nice to know that you do your homework very thoroughly. And you're an author yourself. What are some of the recommendations for great books, great
mm,
authors, or podcasts, or anything that you might want to share with us?
yeah. So I definitely love Mary Poppendick's books.
Yeah,
So she brought lean in software business, and I think everybody should read on what she has written on value streams and value stream thinking. I think she's a very bright lady,
she is.
as well as Tom
Yes.
Poppendick is too. I have an honor to know them both, and uh, I'm also very fond on the product development flow,
Mm-hmm.
the principles of product development flow by Donald Reinhartson.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, one of the things, one of my favorite books is also the Seven Habits of the Highly Effective People.
Yes.
That has helped me to do the agile transformation. So seeking win-wins, focusing on the battles that actually matter, um, sharpening the saw. I
Mm-hmm.
think that has very good insights.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And in fact, Mary Poppendick is one of our Leo 100 women, and I had
Mm.
the pleasure of interviewing her. And yes, she was phenomenal. So thanks for mentioning her and the books that she has written. So, and
I think we have also quite many other women who have contributed a lot
yes,
in what comes to agile books, like Lisa Crispin writing a book on
yeah,
agile coaching,
yeah,
and then I think the Bible of the Retrospectives by Esther Debbie and
mhm,
Diana Larson.
yeah,
I also have had luxury to meet.
yeah.
So I think we need to really respect these pioneers.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, Lisa Crispin, again, she's one of our Leo 100 women, and I recently interviewed her as well. So
Mm.
absolutely
Good.
phenomenal woman. So awesome. And as we wrap up our interview here, then Maarit, what would be the final word or a quote that you might want to share with us, which might sum up,
Yeah,
what you
I
think?
I always love this uh, quote by Einstein: "Imagination is far more important than knowledge." It's
Yes.
been a quote that has kind of been twisting my mind for a long time, and I think what it really means is that even though we are armed with the knowledge,
Hmm.
you can only see the important things with your heart,
Yes.
and
Oh
that's
my
where you
God.
need your
That is
imagination.
that is
How
just
to
so
apply what
powerful.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much, Maarit. You have really shared and took us really deep into the huge transformations you've done and into the world of what it takes to persist, thrive, and survive in the Nordics, space, and how you really did that. And we'll remember not to start an argument with you on Agile for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you on Leo 100. And we look forward to your new book. And thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, I will make my new book actually online, free online.
Okay.
So my dissertation is also freely available online. So I believe these things are for better of the humankind. So
Yes, and thanks for making them on, free, because it's accessible to more people. So that's really a great thought. Thank you so much, Maarit, and hope to talk to you soon to
okay,
learn more.
thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for starting this initiative and making all of this
No,
knowledge
pleasure
public.
is all mine. Thank you.
Thanks.